Ahoy Rum Explorers, I'm Nia, I'm a rum enthusiast, and today we're going to do a Rum Trend Tuesday. So I wanted to come to you very casually and fast as possible, share with you everything I learned during the Miami Rum Congress that happened this past weekend. So grab a drink or two or your favorite sipping rum and come and get some updates with me. Okay, so I have a lot of information to share with you, and it is officially Rum Trend time. So, incredible weekend, super fun, but the most important thing that I wanted to share with y'all as crew members is everything that I learned, because there's a lot of information at the Miami Rum Congress. So, a lot of people attended starting February 9th, but I actually attended February 10th and 11th, and I left on the 12th. But I did not attend the afternoon events of the 12th. So I'm gonna start with what I attended, so you know what I learned and my experience basically through my very first Miami Rum Congress. So February 10th, which was Friday, we started with a early morning session at 10 a.m., which was incredible. As you all know, I'm a rum enthusiast, I love reviewing rums, but the very first session started with building a brand by focusing on your premise strategy. So Kiowa Bryan from Spirit Bam was there. She is, if you do not know who Spirit Bam is basically the conglomerate of all the companies such as Clement, Chairman's Reserve, which we all already love that brand, so all those brands so much, Bounty, and as of today, we did find out also that Mangrove, a company from the UK, just acquired BAM and GB Enterprise, so it'll be very interesting to see what this company brings to the table, because as you can see, they're a very big recognizable portfolio already as far as in the rum world, so that'll be very interesting. So Kiowa Bryan is from Spirit Bam, and then Nick Nistico, he is from Overproof, which is an AI technology-based company. So basically what Overproof does, and I apologize that I have to continuously look at my notes because there's a lot that I'm gonna throw at you, and I wanna make sure I get the best and most precise information that I was able to get from these seminars. So basically this technology that this company has is they basically study everything from menus, to trends in the industry, to everything, so that smaller companies that are trying to come into new markets, they know exactly which accounts to hit. So for example, so basically, even though I personally don't have a bar, or I personally don't have a rum to advertise, this is still very interesting because they shared a ton of numbers as far as what trends are coming in rum. Now, I do want to reach out to Nico and see if we can partner. We can have him on my channel, because I would love for him to share all the data that AI is bringing to the table, because it was so impressive to see everything that AI studies, from everything that's basically in the menu of the place that you're trying to target as a spirit brand or brand new spirit in the market, all the way to like trends in the general area. So they talked about data of different cities. So I'm gonna put a couple of slides up here, which I thought were very interesting. And I'll put a little slide up here so you can see basically how AI studies the menu of these restaurants or bars to determine, for example, how many times they have the word daiquiri or rum in it, to see which bars or places to target. The other incredible slide that they had is the breakdown of the market share. So I'm going to share the slide here so you can see that Florida has officially surpassed in the rum market, has surpassed California. So right now Florida is at a 19.1% and California is at 9.9%. So that for me was mind-blowing, because if you hear everybody talk, everybody says that California is the biggest market. Well, officially, no. This is brand new data that's coming out from Overproof. So you'll see this breakdown. So in this slide, you can see that Bacardi is #1 in all markets. Captain Morgan is #2. As you all know, that's because they have part of the import taxes from other companies going to them, and they use that for their marketing budget. So this is why I'm such a huge fan of bringing to light small craft distillers and small craft companies or master blenders. And I want to share that information with you, because I know that it's really hard for them to compete against the big boys. As far as Florida, you see you also have Cruisin' in #3, Myers in #4, Donku in #6, then Appleton Estate, Kraken, Sailor Jerry, Flor de Caña, and Ron Zacapa. So those are the top companies here in Florida. Now, you'll see that in the other ones it varies a little, but pretty much you have the same mix. The other really interesting slide that I saw is for 2023, the top suppliers of daiquiris as far as rum companies. So the suppliers based by menu placement, in #1 you have Bacardi, which is not surprising as we discussed. And I'll talk a little bit more about what the cover over is about. Basically that tax that goes to the big companies in Puerto Rico and in the US Virgin Islands that helps them basically have money to spend on marketing. So the next big company was Sazerac Company, which honestly blew my mind. They're actually based out of New Orleans, Louisiana, which is quite interesting because when we were there, we went by their headquarters. They have a beautiful bar that's open to the public, and they do tours. And they have a little bit of everything, including some whiskeys, that kind of thing, which was very surprising. So again, I'll try to bring on Nico so he can share a lot more of the statistics, because it was quite interesting to see how the market share is dividing as far as rum and how it's increasing. They also predict that rum is probably going to increase quite considerably. So I want to see if we can get him on here. Let me know in the comments down below if you're interested. Oh, really cool. When you got there, Worthy Park was having welcome cocktails. So the first one was kind of like their creamy coffee liqueur with a beautiful cinnamon stick in it. I'll share a little picture here. So that was our welcome drink. Then after that session, they talked about rum trends. So where are rum makers, rum brands, and the rum market going? Very interesting. Niels Ben Shop, I hope I don't destroy his name. I think it's Ben Shop. He is actually part of E&A Shear based out of Amsterdam. They basically create and supply reproducible tailor-made rum blends in bulk. Full spectrum of rums are available, targeting different industries. I'm actually quite familiar with them because I know a couple of rum companies and people that go and basically pick a blend and then sell it. So for example, I know that Bombarda Rum, they get their rum from here. They're based out of Amsterdam, so a lot of people go there and then they pick different rums and they blend it and then they sell it based on as if they're their own brand. This is kind of like, if you're familiar in the bourbon world, kind of what MGP does. So they sell people the juice and then they basically sell it bottled with a different name, but basically the juice is from this big company that sells their very consistent and really good bourbon. So this is the same with E&E Shear. Also, the other panelist was Jesse Cortez. Jesse Cortez was from this company called Park Street. He's part of the business development team. And basically they talked about all the rum trends based on, also I think Park Street is kind of like an AI intelligent technology company that also does a lot of research for rum, and they'll put their pictures here. So they did talk about the drivers of growth in rum, which was very interesting. One of the first things that was mentioned, distillery brands, they gave the example of Montana, Worthy Park, Bentley, Rain, and Zampan. These are companies that are starting to come up, and they're basically saying that the more precise and high-end, basically premium rum is going to be one of the drivers for this growth in the rum market, because now people are getting pickier and pickier with the rum. Another driver for growth is the internet and social media. So they actually had examples like websites like the Cocktail Wonk. If you're not familiar with him, it's Matt Petrick. He's extremely knowledgeable of everything concerning rum. I would call him like the historian of rum because he does extensive amount of research. They also talked about groups like the Royal Rum Society, who I belong to. That's where I got my Master Rummelier certification. They talked about the Rumcast. So big thing that was quite surprising is podcasts besides the typical things. Highly recommend also subscribing to the Rum Labs newsletter. They constantly update you with what's going on in the rum world and in anything that's going on, acquisitions, any new distillers, which is incredible. So Rum Labs, so everybody knows, it's the big company that organizes all these rum events throughout the world. So they do the Miami Rum Congress, Chicago, San Francisco, all of the ones that are here in the US as well as the one in the UK. This is the company that does it. So they have an incredible amount of wealth and knowledge that they share with you for free, which is incredible. So they talked about that driving growth as far as the rum world. Also, they talked about the increase in rum auctioneers and investments. So they really mentioned something incredible, which I don't know if anybody saw this, but recently a bottle of rum sold for $30,000, which was insane. And it was the first time that had happened as far as the rum. I'm sure it's happened with other spirits because, as we all know, bourbons, whiskey, scotch, all that good stuff, when it comes to old spirits like that, they usually tend to have a lot of fans and a lot of people that want to get those older bottles. But in the rum market, or the rum fascination wasn't there yet, but this year, for the first time ever, this bottle sold for $30,000. They also talked about a company called the Colors of Rum. So what they do is they basically release a collection of different kinds of rums and that you can buy on their website. They also talked about this being a very important point for growth, is that all these companies that are selling rum online are making it even more accessible to people. They also talked about ambassadors of rum, or bartenders, are really driving up the interest in rum. So once again, they brought up Matt Petrick, the Cocktail Wonk. They brought up Ian Burrell, the Global Rum Ambassador, and a couple of other people. New distilleries. They talked about Renegade. If you're not familiar with Renegade, and the way they make their rum is quite an incredible story. I will actually put the link down below for the episode that's on the Rumcast. I'm talking about this brand new distillery. They are being so transparent with their rum that you basically have a QR code in the back of the bottle, and it discloses the varietal of sugarcane, where it came from. All this good stuff. Is a single estate in Grenada. If you have not checked them out, they're still not available for sale here in the US as far as I'm aware of. I know in Europe it's all over the place, but if you do see this kind of bottle and you do like a rum agricole, because they are rum agricole, unaged, but I've heard it's quite interesting because the way that they do things is very unique. They also talked about a distillery opened up in Australia. It's called Bentley. That's another new driving force of growth in rum. Also, they talked about rum celebrities. So if you're not aware, there's a couple celebrities involved with rum brands. I think the oldest one is gonna be Bumbu. It's they partnered with Lil Wayne. You know my review. If you've seen that, you know my thoughts. Silver Ray with Bruno Mars. Sierra with 10 to 1, which I haven't tried 10 to 1. I have tried the Silver Ray. Not a fan. But you know, what's the next thing? They were talking about this, that we'll probably see in a couple months a release from another huge celebrity and a rum partnership. I would love to see Rihanna with a Barbadian rum brand. I think that would be the next logical step. That would be incredible too, as far as celebrity partnerships with brands. What's driving growth is sustainability. So in Europe and the Caribbean, there's this huge push for organic products. There's a certification called Bone Sucrose, so it basically allows your company to get certified in these things. Then I'm gonna put in some more slides which talked about consumption in the US. Once again, the company Park Street brought up the fact that Florida is way ahead California. I'm gonna put that slide in so you can see that here. So it's top 10 states. The most surprising one in there, I have to say, was Minnesota, but I think it's quite interesting to see that Florida, California, New York are still top 3. The next slide talks about rum consumption per capita, and this one was quite surprising, New Hampshire, and we got some insight to this, so this is a very important thing that I wanted to bring to light. A lot of people that were there were saying that a lot of controlled states around New Hampshire drive to New Hampshire to buy rum and then they bring it back. So Massachusetts apparently is a controlled state, and other states around there, they'll drive into New Hampshire and buy the rum and then bring it back to their state. So maybe that's skewing the numbers a little, but that was quite interesting. That's 9 liters per case per 1,000 adults. So you have New Hampshire, North Dakota, Alaska, Minnesota. So Florida is still quite up there, but not so high. So top metropolitan areas for rum, obviously it's gonna be in the bigger cities because of the amount of population. Everything kind of grows with the amount of population, because the more people that are in an area, the more people are gonna drink rum, obviously. But I found it interesting that when they broke it down by city, you did have New York first. Well, it was like New York, Newark, Edison, then New York City in the second spot. So technically, if you started combining both, which Jesse did mention, because a lot of this you could combine, is the fact that you would just be New York, Miami, Chicago, Los Angeles, and you can see the percentages there. This was a very interesting slide. This is basically they're talking about how premium rums are gonna have a considerable larger chunk of the market. So they were basically studying the different categories and the percentage of growth that they're gonna have. So if you look at this slide, you're gonna see that premium rums are going from, basically they did a study from 2021 to what they're predicting in 2026. So if you look at this graph, you'll see that this is gonna have a considerable growth. So if you compare from value rum, which was at negative 0.8%, the highest growth with 38% in 2021 was the premium prestige rums, as well as the prestige at 11.4%. Now, below it, you can see that they say, below it, you can see that they give you a range of pricing, which was very interesting. So Prestige Plus, which is anything over $200, has grown by 38%, which is crazy. 38% is quite a significant growth. So rum consumers are getting pickier and pickier when it comes to their rum. Now, the next category is going to be the ultra premium with a growth of 32.6, and ultra premium was between $45 and $99 a bottle, which I get. That seems quite accurate. Now, as far as bottles over 200, I have not yet bought one over 200, but quite close, with those very unique expressions from Mount Gay that I absolutely love, and they're totally worth it. But this was very interesting. So this is gonna be a big growth, and then that was incredible. Now, as far as the next session, which was run by Fede Hernandez and Jay Coccarullo, who's the co-founder of the Florida Rum Society, they put out a survey to clubs that are members of, so the survey was basically pushed to the Rum Consumer Alliance members, which is basically a lot of the rum clubs, one of them being the Royal Rum Society, the Richmond Rum Society, the Rum Cast, the Minnesota Rum Club, Florida Rum Society, Carolina, Memphis, Austin, Boston, and the Rum Caucus. and Fort. This survey was pushed to all those members and they basically came up with the numbers now. So they did talk a little bit about the numbers being skewed because they were pushing the numbers to these clubs through Facebook primarily. And obviously we do have to bring to light. So if you do see me sharing this survey next year, because I would love to get everybody's input, it's basically, this year they did a 15 question survey based on like preferences of rum, how much money, how much you would spend on sipping rums, that kind of thing, and what you're looking forward to as far as rum. So if you do see me pushing this survey, please complete it. It'll bring true numbers of people on all countries and social media platforms that I think it's very important, so they can have true numbers. So they were a little bit skewed as far as what they shared. So the biggest category on how people received information about new rums, 196 said that they heard about new rums through their rum clubs or groups. And then the next largest category was digital media. So you hear it from us, YouTube, podcasts, blogs. So thank you so much. If you're here, you're definitely a crew member and I still appreciate your support. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button so you do not miss out on any content. I'm gonna try to go live as soon as we get the crew quarters set up. As you can see, I'm still back in the kitchen, but definitely wanted to share this information with you. So don't miss out on the rum trends that I'm gonna bring to you as they come up. I will try to do a quick live, casual, no makeup. Sorry I look like crap, but I gotta get this information to you as soon as possible. The next thing that I like that they talked about is how they purchase rum. So most people, they purchase their rum through their local liquor store. So let me know in the thoughts down below. If and when you go to the liquor store, do you ask anybody there for questions? If somebody like me would be standing there kind of sharing a bottle with you, would that entice you to buy that bottle? I would love to hear your thoughts. That was the very first and largest category. The next one was a local liquor store website. So directly from local liquor store in person, it was 78% of these people. Now, once again, these numbers are skewed to people that are true enthusiasts and that are part of rum clubs, so you know they're gonna be a little bit pickier. And then the second category had 7% was local liquor store website. And then the third one was online liquor stores like the Cask Cartel, Minibar, Drizzle, and the FRS shop. The next thing, and I would love everybody's input that comes here to my channel, is they were talking about the pricing of how much people would pay for mixing rums. Again, these are mixing rums that you would grab and throw into something else or make a cocktail or do a rum and coke. Nothing wrong with that, but I would love to hear your input on your price point for mixing rums. The largest amount of people at 57%, and I'm gonna put the slides here again. So at 57% of the people on this survey said they would pay $20 to $29 for a sipping rum. The next one at 27% is gonna be $30 to $39 a bottle. And the third largest category was 7%, and those people would pay $10 to $19. And then the breakdown of the pricing per sipping rum. So these are rums that you would basically drink on the rocks with a very large cube, or drink it by itself neat, which means with no ice. And the largest amount of people at 35% said they would spend between $61 and $80 a bottle. The next one is gonna be at 29%. And they said they would spend between $41 and $60 a bottle. And then the third largest category at 23%, they said they would spend between $81 and $100. A lady during this conference said, wow, these people are super rich to be spending this amount of money on these kinds of spirits, because that sounds like a lot. Again, this data was great, but it was a little bit skewed because it was literally pushed to only the rum clubs. So it'll be interesting to see what numbers they come up with next year. Now, as far as the other thing that I thought was very interesting that they brought to light, out of the 15 questions, I only want to focus on the couple that I thought were quite interesting. As far as hot topics, the highest topic with the highest rating was rum suppliers being transparent about their products. Example, sharing truthful minimum age statements if they have additives, etc. That came in at a 4.3 over 5. The second largest hot topic is that distributors focusing on large mass-produced rum products instead of quality and transparency. On the first topic, it was quite interesting because the room was filled, which I absolutely loved, with very boisterous small craft and small distributors in the room. So they definitely brought up the fact that they're very concerned with these kinds of topics being a hot topic and the largest hot topic, because they were saying that it's a little bit hard for them to disclose sometimes the amount of sugar that they put in to be exact, especially when they're trying to keep up with, you know, production and everything going on. When usually these mom and pop operations, I'm telling you, this weekend was quite enlightening to realize that a lot of these brands that you think, and I'm gonna go into more discussion about this, that you think that are quite well established are run by two, max a handful of people. So I definitely want to bring to light a couple of companies that I really fell in love with, and I would love to share that information with you so you can be educated and you can support these incredible companies who are owned by small companies. So it was quite interesting to hear the smaller craft distillers when they were talking about transparency and dosage. Dosage is also known as the amount of sugar that companies put in. Now, a lot of people said that there's not a lot of space in the labeling, so a lot of the panelists were sharing that there's some companies that have QR codes, as I was just mentioning before. Renegade, they have a QR code and they disclose everything there. Apparently, Bacardi also discloses all their nutritional values on their website. So that's a huge tip for you and I. If you do not find age statements on the bottles themselves, definitely check their website, check their information, do your duty and do the research, because they only have a limited amount of space. So make sure you do your research on their website as well. After that, we had lunch and cocktails. Once again, Stillworthy Park gave us a beautiful daiquiri and a rum punch, which was quite delicious. They were in small little cups because obviously they wanted everybody to be quite responsible and not get all sloppy drunk, but they were still quite delicious and they were serving them all morning. After the break, we started with the evolution of rum styles. This was quite an interesting panel, so they talked a lot in depth about the evolution of the different styles in rum, which was very cool and very educational. Even though me going through my master sommelier course, you do learn about everything from like different styles of fermentation, distillation, and aging. But it was quite interesting to see these panelists talk about their perspective based on their actual companies. John George's, he is the master distillers in Angostura, which, by the way, I already had such good feedback from people that have tried Angostura, and I actually fell in love with that company as well. I'm gonna put some slides here as well about the evolution of style of rum, which was quite interesting. So they started with early rum history and basically saying that if you haven't heard what rum was called back in the day, it was rum bouillon, and they said that it was terrible tasting. It was made from the skimmings, and the fermentation was spontaneous and open air. The distillation was a 2 distillation pass, and it was basically crude, and they had direct fire stills, and it was mainly given to enslaved people or sold at local markets to cover plantation costs, and rarely intentionally aged. I'm gonna put a picture here which was quite interesting about the distillation process. Right here you can see how it evolved into double retort. This is basically what it looks like. Now, as far as this slide is quite incredible. In 2021, they had the leading rum brands worldwide. As you can see, is Tanduay. If you're not familiar with Tanduay, they are actually from the Philippines, so we can see the difference between the US markets and the world market, comparing both worldwide. Tanduay is from the Philippines, and they say that that's the most consumed. Next one is Bacardi, then Captain Morgan, then McDowell's #1 Celebration, Havana Club, Barcelona, Vasca of Contessa, Montilla, and Appleton, Jamaica. So very, very interesting to see. I would love to see also the numbers coming up. If you look at the bottom of this slide, you'll see the website if you want to see these numbers for yourself. I'll also put it down in the description in case that's helpful. But that was an incredible panel, and that was based on the amount of sale. Next thing was why rum is capturing the attention of whiskey enthusiasts. I unfortunately got stuck outside catching up with Paul from Drums and Rums and a couple of other people, but it was quite interesting when they came in. They had Gabriel Urita, Astrofel Troy Arquiza, and Joe Cabaza. Troy Arquiza was from Bacardi. Joe Cabaza is a rum connoisseur, so they talked about what they're looking forward to rum brands doing in order to entice whiskey people to switch to the rum side, which was quite interesting. Now, this is probably one of my most favorite sessions that pertained to me specifically as a rum enthusiast and as a rum reviewer and as a rum lover. It was creating a level playing field for rum. So as I talked about in the beginning about the cover over, it's basically a percentage of the federal excise tax that companies that are in Puerto Rico and the US Virgin Islands receive as part of the funds that they can use for marketing and whatever they need basically to fix anything at their distilleries. So this was quite interesting. There's been companies that have come together into a new organization called WIRSPA. I know, crazy number, but it's basically a group of rum makers in Barbados, Jamaica, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Antigua, Dominican Republic, Belize, Grenada, Haiti, St. Lucia, Suriname, St. Vincent, Dominica, Bahamas, and St. Kitts that have come together to create this organization in order to basically put funds together to help each other out. Now, speaking of the cover over, we did find out in this session that there was a small producer of rum at this conference, at the specific session, that is from Juan Distilleries, and he said that even though he is in Puerto Rico, him and 7 other distillers do not receive any funds from this cover over or excise tax that's going towards the island, which is really, really sad. He said he would love to join the WIRSPA, and this is why I highly recommend, if you can make it to the Miami Rum Congress, that's what I loved. You had people from all walks of life. You had people that were rum enthusiasts, people that were whiskey enthusiasts, you had people that were just there for fun to do something in Miami Beach, all the way to people that actually produce the spirit that we love so much. Top producers, ambassadors that travel throughout the world talking about different rums, and I honestly think it's so worth the money that is spent. Okay, so this gentleman from San Juan Distilleries was talking about this very interesting topic. Another gentleman from the US Virgin Islands also brought up the fact that the US Virgin Islands is changing or is about to change legislation to help the smaller distillers as well, not only the big guys. So it'll be interesting to see the changes that come out of that. So let's keep an eye out for these smaller distillers in the US Virgin Islands. The great thing about the WIRSPA that I thought was really interesting is, and I'll put the slide here, is that they're trying to get very granular with the way all of these brands label their rum. So they want to be very specific with where it was produced, the percentage of stuff, drinking responsibly, all these resources and more information about the WIRSPA. I'll put the link down below. I'll also put the link down below to part of the labeling is going to be this sticker on the bottle, and I'll put the sticker here. I'll put the slide here so you can see what it looks like. And it's basically a sticker that says that it's authentic Caribbean rum. So based on whatever parameters are gonna come up, they're gonna have that on the bottles of these 32 members that produce rum. I will, if you want to look at that information, which I thought was really interesting. I don't know if it's gonna be like a GI, because if you know what a GI is, it's a geographical indicator. I don't think you could do a geographical indicator with so many countries involved, but who knows. I feel like this is gonna be more of a seal of quality, I guess. But their website will be in the description down below. Definitely gonna follow them because I'd love to see what updates they come up with and to see what bottles they're gonna put the sticker on, you know? Oh, and the really cool thing is they were talking about the projects that they work on together. So for example, one distiller needed help with their fermenter, so they put the funds together and they helped bring in brand new fermenters. Another distiller had some issues with roofing, so they basically all split the cost to help each other out, which I thought was very, very cool. And quite helpful, you know, to build such a community with smaller kinds of brands and companies that are struggling. And then the last session that I attended was the bartenders head-to-head debate, which was the funnest. So the panel was Mary King, she's a bartender, and they had Daniel Dalla Pola, he's the owner of Exotico, and another Tiki Speakeasy in Miami Beach, Max Carlin and Raymond Edwards from Angostura. And they basically had Tiki John moderating, which was quite fun. And it was basically these bartenders going head to head on how they make their cocktails. My favorite and most, so to explain the cover over or excise tax, U.S. producers in the U.S. Producers in the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico get taxed but get the money back. And originally, specifically in Puerto Rico, Luis Muñoz Marin created the cover over in 1917, and 40% of this excise tax goes to the bigger producers. So basically what these funds were, it was to help better the island. So back in the 1900s, they were building schools, building parks, fixing the infrastructure of the island. Now, if anybody has heard Puerto Rico in any of the news, we know that's most likely not the case anymore. And these funds are going to these big consumers. So I thought it was quite interesting to hear that that was the original purpose of them getting back this cover over or excise, a percentage of the excise tax that bottles get hit with when they import here into the US. Also, another very cool thing that I found out was that the DR actually does have a GI as of 1 year ago. I'm gonna do a little bit more research and I'll go into a deep dive of what they're basically calling a Dominican rum, and I'll bring it to light in the next Rum Trends Tuesday. Now for the bartenders, they basically went with what they talked about was how they make daiquiris, how they make old fashions, how they make Mai Tai. So it's quite interesting to see everybody's perspective. I think the most memorable thing, which is something that I do, was when Marie brought up the fact that when she does go to try and buy a rum, because she is part of the Tonga Hut, which is the largest tiki bar in California. If you're not familiar with the Tonga Hut, definitely check them out. They look amazing. I haven't gone to California yet and checked out those tiki bars, but she was saying that when she goes to try a rum to make sure that it's up to her palate, is that she doesn't have any perfume on. I try to do my reviews freshly bathed, so it doesn't diminish my capacity to enjoy the notes and the flavors and everything that's coming in with that spirit, in my case specifically rum. They also did talk about in the daiquiri, when you shake it, she talked about using the lemon peel to shake it up in the shaker, because the oils from the lime peel kind of release in the daiquiri, so I'm assuming it makes it more bitter. So I'm definitely gonna take that little trick. I thought it was very cool, but it was very interesting to see also that they also went in depth as far as if to garnish, not garnish. So that was a fun little session. But other than that, honestly, very impressed, super happy I was able to go. Tickets are not cheap. Did give a little bag with a glass, which was quite interesting. So I have a replacement for my rum taster, It does have the Rum Lab here etched on the bottom, which I thought was cool. They have a little cocktail. Apparently there's a new app called Cocktail Pro, a little handout of that. They also had a cute little pin, which by the way, all the brands there had the coolest pins. So I was in heaven. They gave a little lip balm from The Real Coconut, which if you're not familiar, they basically make products to add to your cocktails, and a pen. So this bag, as far as what they were giving away, but the brands themselves, if you're not familiar, this is what I use to go to events, because what I do is I bring my Master Rummelier and my Rummelier pin so people know I'm part of the Royal Rum Society, and I have my Glencairn in here which holds it. So basically what I do is when I'm at the Rum Festival, I take this, clip it off, hand it to the exhibitors just pour whatever they would like to pour. So awesome. I got some pins from Angostura, from St. James, from Donku, a cute little pineapple from Plantation. Mitch gave me a pin. I did manage to scoop up some bottles. I was talking to Don Pepe, who's the owner of San Juan Artisanal Distilleries. I did ask him if it was possible to buy one of his bottles. So I did buy his bottle. They are basically they're a single estate, and they're making their rum from sugarcane juice. He was so kind, since they were already leaving, to give me the rest of this one, which is Tres Clavos, which is very interesting as well. And during the Hurricane Maria, his distillery was destroyed, and he partnered with the 7 other distilleries that are there in Puerto Rico and do not get this subsidy from the excise tax, and they allowed him to release rum in order to survive. So basically he gifted this to me, so thank you so much. They are not available here in the US, but if you do manage to go to Puerto Rico, definitely support them. Again, these are very small craft distillers that are putting out tremendous, incredible product. The other thing that was very interesting, and if you have not watched my last review of Virago, they use ex-cognac stills. That is the same thing that this company, San Juan Artisanal Distillers, use in Puerto Rico. And then the other bottle I managed to scoop up was Baku. They're 12 years. It was my first time trying Baku. Highly recommend keeping an eye out for these guys. They're coming out with some incredible expressions. They have a ex-bourbon finished in sherry, cognac, and agave or tequila barrels, which were incredible. And they said that their price point was going to be between $29 and $39, which I thought was incredible. I'll put the pictures of the bottles here. Baku is available practically everywhere that I've been to in Florida, so I'm really excited to see all the crew at Baku. Super nice. I did manage to scoop up these really cute little baby Angostura bitters. They have their traditional orange bitters and this cocoa bitters. So a little sample of this incredible 4-square 20-year-old Barbados 2002 Down Island, who apparently bottles barrel picks, giving out some samples. So I grabbed this, which was incredible as well. 20 years. Apparently you can't find it anywhere except at Primo's. You know, that's one of my favorite liquor stores. I'll put their information down below. If you're a big fan of 4-square, price point is about $180, I believe, plus taxes. And then obviously we got some cool Grandeur hats. Holmes Key was also there. But thank you so much for watching. I know this has been quite a bit. I would love to hear your comments down below if you saw any cool bottles that you'd be interested in trying. I know there was a lot of people on social media posting about the Miami Rum Congress, but I definitely want to go back next year. It was an incredible experience. Huge shout out to all the people that I met, including a couple very cool pirate crew members, Captain Jack and Captain Wolf, that were there. You'll see them in my live video when I was at the grand tasting, so huge shout out to them. Huge shout out to the Rum Posse. Paul from Drums and Rums was there. Johnny from Ready Set Rum was there as well. and I got to meet some very cool people. So I'm very excited to go next year. Please let me know down below if I will see you next year, which will be very interesting, and I look forward to the next round. Yeah.